Shalom, Baruch Haba, Coram Lee Anthony. Hello and welcome to Sari. My name is Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we give all honor and esteem to Yahuwah Elohim and to his Ben Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach for revealing so much understanding and truth in his word and for coming along with us on this journey. Truly, it is amazing that these things that are written are being played out now. I want to thank all of you, the Kodeshim, for your comments and for your support. If you are joining us for the first time, I recommend that you go back and watch the earlier videos, as they will give keen insight to how this adut is to be played out. In this part of the adut, we will find out what a star is going to do and how this all plays out now here in the story. And so some very interesting questions arise that will be addressed as we go through. One of them is, who wrote the book of a star? And how can we be sure? And is the writer prophesied to do so? And if so, where is it written? Here in this part of the adut, the word of Yahuwah will set the record straight and answer all those questions and give powerful insight to what it means to take a vow to Yahuwah. Let's jump right in and find out how this plays out now. Welcome back to the city square. Amid the protests, Mordecai is giving a witness, and before we begin, I'd like to recognize Bimidbar and Numbers verses 9 through 12 deal with divorce and do not apply here, so the line and precept match perfectly as we pick up at verse 13 in the chapter. We will survey the lines in the next part of the city square. And these are the verses that we will line up. Devarim, Deuteronomy 28:63 will flow with Bimidbar, chapter 13 through 15. And a star, chapter 4, 15, and 16 will all line up interactively. As we begin, and Devarim, Elohim declares, and it shall be. It shall be. Whatever it is, shall be. And in Devarim and Bimidbar, in verse 13, it declares every vow and every binding oath to afflict her soul, her husband may confirm it, or her husband may make it void. Every vow and every oath to afflict her soul. Here the votive offerings is coming in, and so she's another vow comes into play here. Every vow and every oath. Here the word H7621 comes into play. It is a shabuah. It is an oath or a curse, a testing of innocence. Also an oath of Yahuwah. To attest means to provide or serve as a clear evidence, to be a witness, and declare that something exists, or in this case, begin to trust in Yahuwah. This is what she's beginning to do now. It is an oath here. It is an oath to afflict her soul. Ana means to oppress. The word for afflict there means to oppress, to humble and be busied with, to be bowed down and depress, to weaken oneself. So this sounds like a fast here, unlike the other oath that she took with regards to the things that the king had prescribed concerning death there, to afflict her soul, her being. Her husband may confirm it, or her husband may make it void. Here the husband is the word H376. It is Ish. It is a man, a great man. This makes him esteemed, as in a spiritual advisor, a champion, a servant, the champion of a cause. A servant. He's going to either confirm it or to make it void. Okay, so now we know what it is. It is the beginning of a new vow. It is the beginning of a new vow from a star here in the verses that Mordecai may either confirm or make void. Because in this one, according to the enactment of the Kuqua, there is an affliction of the soul. She is starting to believe something in her heart. And Yahuwah knows it because he said, "It shall be," in the survey line above. It shall be. And over in a star, then a star told them to reply to Mordecai. So she is getting ready to let us in on it and how it is going to go down. So she's going to do all these things, and she's beginning to let us in on what it is. And over in Devarim, Yahuwah declares that just as Yahuwah rejoiced over you to do good and to multiply you. So here Yahuwah is rejoicing. He is rejoicing because she has taken a stand to afflict her soul and change her perspective here. And the word declares, now if her husband makes no response, whatever, to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows and all her agreements that bind her. So I must point out from here, Mordecai does not answer from day to day for the rest of this exhortation. He is silent in this exchange because she is making some new vows now. She's making some new vows, some new votive offerings. And here the mark of the accusative is on the vows. They are of the Hebrew origin. Et kal neder, et kal nedahara. Et kal nedahara. She's getting back to her roots here. The truth in the Hebrew is shining forth now. She is taking some new vows. She didn't want to have anything to do with what was written in verse 11 of this same chapter that we covered last week in a star, which had to do with the powers of Madai and Peres, the trickery they were using back then. Here in our time, vows are understood in the Greek. She is looking at the Hebrew, the Aleph and the Ta, not the Alpha and the Omega that is Greek. It cannot help you. Also, he was to confirm all of the agreements. Et cha asareha. It is a binding obligation. The verb means to begin the battle, to make the attack. That's what's going on here. These are the agreements. She's beginning to go on the attack now. She's going for it. He got through to her, and she's not trying to hear anything foreign anymore. The truth has set her free. That's what's going on here. And these things are going to bind her, the mark of the accusative there. Here, whatever she says now, Mordecai can make void or confirm. And to say nothing in the line of survey means he confirms. But more importantly, look at what Yahuwah says in this line of survey. He makes an announcement. Just as Yahuwah rejoices over you to do you good and multiply you. Listen how excited he is over that kind of radical change. She went against the established order of world religion and took her Ibrit understanding. And that's why here at Sari, we lift up the great and mighty name Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. This is pleasing to Elohim, and he rejoices. And so he will rejoice with you, regardless of your religion, if you come to him. This is how you get a global victory, an everlasting favor for a global pandemic and worldwide chaos. This is what a victorious protest sounds like. It's called religious reconstruction. I want y'all to listen real closely to this, because the churches are coming in to ensure your defeat. That man took a photo out with them, that one that made the world news. Your life will not matter once they get involved. In fact, no life will matter once they enter the mix. Muslims and Jews, this is your creator, because all of that religion is birthed out of Christianity, just like everything else. So you better watch out too. But, here is what a star says. She says, go gather all the Yahudim who are present in Shushan. The mark of the accusative is on the Yahudim. Ve'etcha HaYahudim. You look at how the word confirms itself in the line of survey. We see Yahuwah on the top line of survey here in Devarim. His words in Bamidbar, he spoke in Devarim to rejoice over them, and these are the words according to Moshe given to Yahuwah concerning this particular kukwa. Those are his words. And now here in a star, she calls for the Yahudim. It is beautiful. Yes, it is. And it shall be. That's what she called. She called for those people. That's her support system. The ones who were present in Shushan. Shushan means the lilies. And we're going to go to Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, chapter 6, verse 2. You don't have to turn there. I'm going to read it. This is her support system, against systemic racism. Declares here, my beloved has gone to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his flock in the gardens, and to gather lilies. The praise of Yah. They're back in the garden. People here are guarding something in Shushan. Most likely the set-apart vowels taken in the original tongue. These are the ones that are gathered. This is her support system. This is her support system. It's what she called on in that line of survey there. In the next line of survey there, it declares, Yahuwah will rejoice over you to destroy you. Shemad. To destroy you, to exterminate. It's on the way. Something's going to happen here. So how can you rejoice and be exterminated at the same time? Stay tuned. Here we see in Bamidbar, it declares he confirms them because he made no response to her on the day that he heard them. On the day that he heard them. So over in a star, this is what he heard. And fast for me, neither eat nor drink for 3 days, day or night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. Eat nor drink for 3 days. And she says fast, fast. So she is still giving the vow because Mordecai is confirming it by not responding. Okay. I also want to make note in the prior video when we covered, I believe it was the diseases, where Yikra chapter 12 came into play, and I want to revisit that. Initially, she did not want to come because she had not been called these last 30 days. This conversation is taking place on the 30th day. So she is fasting for 3 days to fulfill that prophetic Torah and bring the total to 33 days. Bring the total to 33 days. So I'm going to go there real quick. Yikra. That's Leviticus chapter 12. Leviticus chapter 12. I want to go there and read that real quick. I'm going to read in verse 1. Then Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Bnei Yisrael, saying, If a woman has conceived and born a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, as in the days of her customary impurity, she shall be unclean. I'm reading in the New King James Version. And on the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. She shall then continue in the blood of her purification 33 days. This is what we're talking about here. She shall not touch anything Kodesh, nor come into the Mikdash until the days of her purification are fulfilled. Then it goes on to speak about a female child. And I'm going to drop down here to verse 6. When the days of her purification are fulfilled, whether for a son or a daughter, she shall bring to the Kohen a lamb of the first year as a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove as a sin offering, to the door of the Achel of meeting. Then he shall offer it before Yahuwah and make atonement for her, and she shall be clean from the flow of her blood. This is the Torah for her who has born a male or a female. Okay, and I'm just going to stop. There's one other verse, but the point is this 3 days is the fulfillment of the rest of those days. They are fasting days. And she was speaking here on the 30th day. This is how the conversation took place on the last day, on the 30th day. These next 3 days are fasting days that she's speaking of here. And her maids were going to fast likewise. So over in Devarim, Elohim is right there with them to bring you to nothing. And this is what his word has done. Brought them to a fast. To bring them to nothing. This fast affects and humbles the soul. It brings you to nothing. But Yahuwah is right with them, rejoicing because he is sustaining them, making sure it goes well for them. He is rejoicing that they have taken a stand for him with their whole heart. He is in the survey line. He's right there with them. It's right there in the survey line. But if he does not make them void after he has heard them, so here Mordecai has heard everything, and over in a star, she goes on to say, and so I will go to the king, which is against the law. Which is against the law. So we see again in a star, she has renewed her ancient vows, and here goes against the ones established by the world standard. Those ones in verse 11 of a star chapter 4, that thing that bound her. You know, that's the plan. She's going to the King of Kings first, and then go to the king of Madai and Peres. And Mordecai hasn't said a word. You might say he's created a monster, so to speak. So she's risking it all. No response from him is as good as a confirmation of what she has established. That's what's going on here in the survey line. And Yahuwah declares something to Mordecai. He says, and you shall be plucked from off the land which you go to possess. You shall be plucked off the land which you go to possess. Here, that word for pluck is nasach. It means to pull or tear away, to be torn away. According to the word, 2 witnesses record Mordecai's return from captivity with Zerubbabel. It was Nehemiah and Ezra. Mordecai is listing as having returned. He was the one chosen to bring back news of what happened to the tribe of Yehudah after the captivity. He was plucked from off of the land which you go to possess. There in the land of Madai and Peres was where this edut was established. It was established there in the land, and they went there to possess it in order to establish this word of Elohim that was set up by Adonai Yahushua when they first crossed over the Jordan after the death of Moshe to establish what Elohim gave them to set up at Nablus on Mount Ibel. That's what they set up there. He was going to be plucked from there. Now we're going to go on and find out why he had to be plucked. And then over in Bemidbar, it declares, then he shall bear her guilt. Then he shall bear her guilt. Once he's plucked up, then he's going to do something. He's going to bear her guilt. H5771, that word for guilt was punishment for iniquity. The consequences of her condition. She repented. This would affect their salvation as well. The mark of the accusative is on the guilt. If she fails, he fails. So she bound him up right in there. She bound him up right in there. He's going to bear her guilt, what he told her to, what he confirmed. He got her, he broke through, as we witnessed in the last video, he broke through and got through to her, and so now she's going for it. She's gun-ho, and she's pulling out all the stops. And if she's wrong, he's wrong, and he's going to have to answer for that, for leading her astray. But also, he's going to bear her guilt. Here the word for bear, H5375, and this is awesome here because it means to be in support of, to lift up and carry off, to be exalted. also means to take away. He was the one that was going to tell the story, having been, as you know, exalted by her to bring the good news of deliverance concerning the tribe of Yahudah. As the story goes, Yahuwah declares he, Mordecai, would be plucked up from the land they were going to possess right here in the survey line. They were in a foreign land, Shushan, to execute, as I mentioned, this edut that was given by Yahuwah Elohim. And outside of Mordecai and Hattat, there are no other witnesses to this conversation. It was just those three. And according to the word, whoever is deserving of death shall be put to death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. He shall not be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. And so over in the star, she declares, and if I perish, I perish. If I perish, I perish. Now, the quote I gave you was in Devarim chapter 17, verse 6. Okay? 2 or 3 witnesses establish a thing. The word only identifies 3 people in this conversation, as I mentioned before. This was the beginning of the turning point that would tip the scales in their favor. And Mordecai was going to bear that witness. He was going to be plucked up, to be taken back, to bear that witness. You know, so here, most scholars do not know who was the author of the book of Estar. And I'm telling you here now, the word of Yahuwah is declaring it was Mordecai. Hattat didn't write it. You know, Mordecai went back. He was listed as those returning from Madai and Peres during the first captivity. After the first captivity, he returned. He's listed there. He would have known these intimate details that are given here in this storyline. Who else is going to know? No one else was there. For all of the religious scholars out there who can't seem to figure this out. To perish, 2 deaths. So she's going all out. You know, she worried about that fast, of course, no food or water. But then she has to face the king after that. And the thing that he has proclaimed to those who were not called. And Mordecai still hasn't said a word. You know, he's right there with her. But she was letting him know that she was going to do everything in her power to save her people, even if she had to die. She set the record straight. And it was written. And she was not put to death, she lives, because this book bears her name. Has been tainted, but not by this witness. But nevertheless, you know, that's where she stood on going in to see the king. She had a made up mind going the other way towards righteousness. So here I'm going to line up the whole line of survey first, and it's in Devarim chapter 28, 64, as it lines up with Bamidbar chapter 30, verse 16, Numbers 30, 16, and Estar 4, verse 17. Of course, we see a footnote here, so we see there's some trickery going on, and the word of Yahuwah always identifies that footnote. And so I'm going to lay it out first. Then Yahuwah will scatter you among all peoples from one end of the earth to the other. These are the kukim, which Yahuwah commanded Moshe between a man and his wife. So Mordecai went his way. Okay? From one end of the earth to the other. You know, so everyone has the opportunity to repent and be saved if they adhere to these guidelines regarding taking an oath to Yahuwah. But not only that, because the people and his word were going to be scattered even more, because according to the prophecy, the Yahweh were going to come after this edut was finished, was executed, that was written on the stones, and these are the Greeks, according to the book of Daniel. And later Rome came over and overthrew them, and this has indeed happened. The Greeks came in and overthrew Media and Perez, right after the execution of this edut. And so we have this same Kukwa written in the Greek. It is called the Septuagint. They have that in their understanding, and they do not use it, but it is written there. And according to this word, it was scattered, because the line in the survey also reads, scatter you among the people from one end of the other. These are the Kukim. They were scattered as well, which Yahuwah commanded Moshe between a man and his wife. And so Mordecai went his way. So all of these things are going to be scattered. The execution of his edut was finished, and now the Gentiles come in and began to do some things with this particular part of the edut. And we're going to find out what. And here, Elohim, as we come to the closing of this edut, or this part of the Kukwa, he says, and there you shall serve other mighty ones, which neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. And between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house, and did according to all that a star commanded him. Now we're going to break all of this down. As I finish reading those in their entirety, that's the only way we're going to be able to understand this footnote. This is prophetic of a change that will take place in the scriptures concerning this very special book called the Star. Before the people who were to change it came into the knowledge of the scriptures and changed it. The prophecies written in Torah are truly innumerable, declaring things from the beginning before they even spring up. So this book is declaring the times not only then, but of the year 2020. And who knew that these times were in the prophecies due to be fulfilled in Scripture. The first thing you want to notice is that they are going to be worshiping something that is not Yahuwah Elohim. It says so right in the verse, that you're going to be serving mighty ones, which neither you nor your fathers have known. They're going to be wood and stone. The word here for wood, the root means to shut, and it is used only in one place, and that is the Mishlei, the Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 30. And it simply reads, he winks his eye to devise perverse things. He purses his lips and brings about evil. So there's going to be some speaking here that is going to result in evil, the wood there. The stone is eben. It is a common stone in its natural state. This is the type of worship regarding what the people were going to be worshiping. It goes on to describe other states of the stone. The stone is in a particular state. Here it is perverse. It is perverse. They are hewn stones. Metaphorically, it is used here of a perverse and a hard heart of a person or their actions, showing a deliberate and obstinate desire to behave in a way that is unreasonable or unacceptable, often in spite of the consequences. They are stones of destruction, sinking stones. And they are going to use this part of the story that relates to the statutes, the kukwa, given by Yahuwah to do that, because it says so in the next line of survey. And it declares, and between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house. This is what they're going to do. And we'll look at the footnote here. And the footnote declares that the Septuagint adds a prayer of Mordecai here. Adds a prayer of Mordecai here. So this would be an extension of the Kukwa. But there is nothing more in the Torah to deal with. We've covered everything. They add this prayer here. This is, if you were to read it, you would know blasphemy. I'm here to bear witness that that chapter they put in there never happened. It never happened. And if you were to go there and read it, I hope you would never pray to those things as well. They have hewn or chiseled out the names of demons that I have so often displayed and spoke of, as this edute allowed. And you can find all of this at Septuagint Online, Book of Esther. Book of Esther, Septuagint Online. You can go there and read it. It does not allow you to click and paste, or I would show some of it to you. It looks to be almost a whole chapter added to the Kukwat, as it reads in the survey line, between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house. And what they have added is so far from the truth. I thought it was something out of Disney World. Really did. I didn't waste any more time with it. But most importantly, it does not line up with this Torah in any way. So it's not to be trusted. The ones who made the change have chiseled in names that have been identified in the Torah. They have been identified in the Torah verse as other mighty ones, as we see here on the screen. There are other mighty ones. They are other mighty ones. So the names they use to identify him, Yahuwah is saying in this prophetic teaching that it is not him. He declares that in the line of survey above. There you shall worship, you shall serve other mighty ones, which neither you nor your fathers have known. So it's not him. It's not him. As much as they're going to try to come together and make you believe it's him, it's not going to be him. And they are so perverse in their heart that they feel like if they can get everybody on earth to declare together this demon, that perhaps Yahuwah will go ahead and start believing it. That's not going to happen. And anyone that says that that is him is a liar, and the truth is not in him at all. But Mordecai did according to all that a star commanded him. Mordecai did according to all that a star commanded him. So everything that needed to be done was done, is the understanding on this survey line now. What they have done is they have taken some extra steps and added a whole nother chapter and trying to lengthen the Kukwa, and that just Yahuwah, he points that out. And you can go there and witness it. And it was testified in this Adut. Now, what I do want to show you is this one thing here concerning, what I saw on the Septuagint, Book of Esther Online. You have to spell it just like you normally would, Esther there. In the prayer, the object of worship identified in the text are the following. That's what they put up here in the English. Both of those are demonic and distinctly different from the Greek writing in the Septuagint, which are these two down here are the ones in the Greek, when you go to the Greek and read it. Greek terms identified with demonic worship and used in the temples of the Goe. Additionally, all mentioned here stem from root words that are not to be trusted. So you don't want to be praying to these things, any of these things up here on the screen. And I've gone through this. The word has made a way for these things to be known so that you can understand clearly what type of vow, who you are to vow to, and who you are not to take a vow to. And so this is the end of the Kukwat concerning the things that Elohim set up for a man and a woman, and between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house. Amen. The truth will set you free. Fasting is a great way to focus and reflect on what's going on in your life, as I'm sure many of you have a lot of questions. But a fast to take a vow to worship Yahuwah Elohim is a fast like no other. Desperate times require desperate measures. What better way to leave the false religion of the world and take a fast track to say to Yahuwah Elohim, save me. I have come because the revealing of your testimony has helped me recognize the error of my own ways and the iniquity that I no longer desire to hold on to. I will worship you only and make mention of your great name forever, because your truth has been known to me. Do not remember my iniquity, and I will call on your name and no other. Forgive me for my sins and deliver me from the chaos that is in this world, because your name is in me. And let me be found written in your book of life, according to the favor of your Ben Yahushua HaMashiach. If you have spoken this with a true heart, I believe restoration will come to you as you continue to speak to him. This is how to address spiritual reconstruction. This is exactly what a star did. However, this is not what happened after the Civil War. And to all the protesters out there, I sympathize with your cause. But if you do not get this right, you will fail again miserably. Spiritual reconstruction. Everybody. Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. Say his name. Protest those churches, those mosques, and those synagogues out there. This is the real reason why this has come upon us now. Let's not be misled again. Shalom.